live. Somehow the live ended up vertical versus horizontal, so we are going to go with it today. I'm not going to be on here for long anyways. So today I'm going to be answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, any questions you guys have about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. If you guys would want your own natal chart reading, synastry reading, progress natal chart reading, mini natal chart reading, you guys can send me an email. The information for all of that is going to be in the description box below. So let's give everyone a few minutes for them to join the chat and see what kinds of questions the people have for us today. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. What should we talk about today? Welcome to everyone joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Hey, Elisheva, how are you doing? You said, can I explain how to overcome the difficulties Saturn and its return of Saturn, I'm guessing, and the deeper understanding and its meaning? Hey, Alec. Hey, Serena. Hey, Sylvie. How are you guys doing? Welcome. Welcome to the chat. Yes, make sure you guys like the chat. I will get to everyone. Feel free to comment below if you guys have any questions about astrology, metaphysics, your natal charts, the whole world. Oh, good. Welcome. Welcome, Paul. Welcome, everybody. Feel free to comment below. Okay, so I'm starting with Elisheva here. So, okay. Here's the thing, and this is the way that you can like overcome the Saturn return. You know, if you look at Saturn and just understand that you are always in a Saturn transit, it's gonna make everything easier for you, okay? The whole reason I think people focus on the Saturn return is because it's like conjuncting, right, your natal Saturn. So that's one of the reasons. But it's like you also have oppositions, you also have squares. You're literally always in a Saturn transit. So when you kind of look at it from that perspective, it's a little bit easier, first of all. Second of all, if you look at it from the perspective that it's now putting you on the path of adulthood, the first Saturn return that is, okay? It's also going to be a little bit easier in that way as well, right? To look at it in that way because of the fact that, again, it's kind of like a rite of passage. You know what I mean? Hey everyone, hey Esperanza, how are you doing? How are you guys doing? What is new? Hey Eva, hey Azafor, how are you guys doing? You said any thoughts on Saturn return conjuncting Moon? So with that energy, basically what's gonna happen here is like you might have some things coming up in terms of like your home, your family, do you know what I mean? To clear, like energetic clearance. You said, hello, Cancer Chiron conjunct the South Node in the 12th house. So you're basically bringing over that wound from a previous lifetime, okay? It's in Cancer, so it's something connected to the home, to your upbringing. It could also be kind of like an orphan energy with Cancer. I find anytime you have Cancer in your chart, it's like the most orphaned energy or like the most abandoned energy. So it's like either you may have felt abandoned in the earlier part of your life or you could be carrying that energy over from a previous lifetime into this lifetime, okay? Because it is conjuncting your South Node and it's in the 12th, like the way energetically kind of feels is like you're actually carrying this over from a previous lifetime, if that makes sense. You can kind of look at it even with like the Cancer Chiron as like the mother wound or wounding around home or wound around like your emotions and maybe not being able to express it in a previous lifetime, for example. So it's something that you are mastering, okay, in this current lifetime. Anything to do with family and just like sometimes the Cancer energy, it's like if it's not your direct family, sometimes you kind of create family through friends or through, you know, your colleagues, you know what I mean? And then you don't want to leave those people behind, let's say if another opportunity comes up, right? But it's like, you know, it's like in order for you to pick yourself and choose your path, you might have to work on that energy with, I hope that makes sense. Hey everyone, hey Edward, how are you guys doing? You're welcome. You said, with Pluto and Aquarius opposing Chiron in Leo, you said 0 trigger warnings on this channel. There are no trigger warnings. Oh my gosh, you're so funny. You said, would Pluto and Aquarius opposing Chiron in Leo cause unstable friendships and losses? I'm curious to know why or where you're getting that information from, because it's Pluto and then it's opposing Chiron. So it's like, that's power struggles. Yes. Usually like unstable friendships would be, let's say like Venus and Aquarius, Venus in the 11th, Venus-Uranus aspects, a Venus-Uranus transit, like that would bring through like instability in friendships and in relationships. For example, losses could be, let's say if you have Pluto aspecting maybe the Venus, for example, or let's say it's the transit, you know what I mean? So I'm curious to know like the Chiron and the Pluto it's not necessarily something to do with friendships fully. Like Chiron and Leo, I can kind of see it being like love, dating, and relationships, like in that way, I guess. You can kind of see it in that way. But just like Pluto opposing Chiron, it's more so power struggles that you're going to be dealing with, not so much instability. Hey T, how are you doing? How are you guys doing? You said because Aquarius rules friendships. Oh, I see what you mean. And it's in your 5th house. Okay. And it's in there with Saturn. Okay, I can see that. But like Aquarius to me, yes, it's friendships. But the way that I see Aquarius, it's like more so friendships like for a higher cause, if that makes sense. Or like philanthropy or anything of the sort. Does that make sense? So it's not, like to me, Venus is more so like the everyday friendships. Chiron is a wound. Absolutely. Aquarius to me is like higher level friendships. Does that make sense? Like, okay, so with the air signs, Gemini is like your everyday friends, you know, Gemini can be friends with everybody. Libra rules relationships and friendships overall, right? So it's like people that you're kind of making connections with. And then Aquarius, the way that I see Aquarius is like, it's friendships with some sort of common cause or like higher purpose. You know what I mean? It's not so much like the day-to-day types of friendships. It's like philanthropy. It's creating like a community, but usually something, you know, everyone has something in common, if that makes sense. But I see what you mean, like, because it's in your 5th house, like, and Saturn is in there as well. But Pluto doesn't really bring through instability. Do you know what I mean? I know it's in Aquarius, but it's like Pluto is more so like power struggles, I would say. Hey, I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. Do I think text/writing things online or on a screen would be similar to using the throat chakra? Absolutely. You're expressing your thoughts, right? Anytime you're expressing, you're using your throat chakra essentially, okay? You said Sun, Rahu, Mercury, and Aries in the 11th house. Rahu, I believe, is your north node. So part of your life purpose deals with your ego. It deals with your throat chakra, speaking, communicating. It's in Aries, so it's like about picking yourself and picking your own path, doing your own thing, if that makes sense. And then it's in the 11th house, so something higher minded, okay? It's going to be something to do with like maybe philanthropy or connecting people for some sort of larger mission. Again, the 11th house is something larger, right? It's something to do with like, even if you look at Uranus and Aquarius, kind of also connecting to the other individual's question as well. Uranus is a generational planet, and it's also kind of like the collective consciousness in a way, right? It's more so like, again, for let's say something higher minded or something to do with like helping the collective propel forward. I hope that that makes sense, okay? I'm just going to go back up and see what were you guys saying up here. How are you, Esperanza? You said, okay, I'm back to Eva. You said, would Pluto and Aquarius opposing your Leo 11th house? Okay, I see it. You have it in the 11th house. And then you said containing Chiron cause losses. Okay, well now I have a little bit more information. You said your whole social circle is changing out of nowhere. I'm curious to know also, because again, the sudden unexpected change is Uranus. You know what I mean? And you already had that energy to begin with. So it could be something to do with Uranus too. Uranus is also switching signs this year as well. You said it feels like another Saturn return. I'm really curious to know. I'd have to look at your whole chart to pinpoint exactly what it is. But in terms of just like sudden changes, unexpected changes, instability, like that's Uranus's domain. Okay, Pluto deals with like power struggles and these types of things. You said Aquarius opposing Leo, 11th house. I mean, I see how that could potentially manifest, but there's something else going on in there. I feel like you said, hey, okay, I did that one already. You said, I'm not answering any sort of like predictive questions, but in general, Serena, because you're asking about like, you know, your life and all these things, like I believe that everything is in your hands, right? So it's like, trying to put yourself in more of an empowered position versus like disempowered, or like kind of looking at things as like, you know, you have the control to control your life. Does that make sense? Instead of thinking that things are happening to you, right? Kind of like taking matters into your own hands, maybe switching up the vibes, maybe joining a class, maybe joining a group where you can meet people and these types of things just to switch up the energy. Oh my gosh, Mary, hey, how are you doing? I'm doing well, thanks, T. How are you? You said you're a bit stressed out. Why are you stressed out? I mean, if you want to share, I know there's a lot of people on here. Hey, Chemiel, how are you doing? What's new? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Yes, I'm glad that you caught the live, Edward. What's new? What's the 411? You're welcome. You said, what do I think about Jupiter in the 12th house as the ruler of the ascendant? You said, and then you have a Sagittarius ascendant. Let me think. Your Sagittarius ascendant, and Jupiter's ruling that for you, and it's in the 12th house. So like there's an undertone to your personality, right? In terms of like a metaphysical energy, do you know what I mean, with the 12th house energy in there. Also Jupiter, like I wouldn't be surprised if you were interested in being like a metaphysical teacher or like a spiritual teacher or like, let's say philosophy, for example, because also you guys, the ascendant is the direction you guys are heading in, okay? So it's like, it can be how you guys look, but it's also where you're going in this lifetime. So there's an undertone energy here, right, of Jupiter, which is the teacher, if that makes sense. And already you have Sagittarius rising. Hey. Oh, you're Taurus. Nice. Welcome. Oh, no problem, Esperanza. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for being a part of the chat. You said 11th house. Exactly. You said 11th house be like, what are you planning with your people to move into the future? Exactly. Like the 11th house is more so connections that are, again, higher minded. Like it's not just like kind of like fun types of friendships. You know what I mean? Like and I don't want to say surface level because sometimes people kind of think surface level doesn't mean it's a deep friendship. It's just like you have different types of friends, right? Or just like people that you know, okay? Because it's like Gemini is everybody. Gemini can be friends with everybody. They're going to find a common ground with absolutely everybody. That's Gemini, okay? And then the 4th house, which is Cancer, is the home. So it's kind of like maybe people who feel like home to you. The 5th house is love, dating, and relationships. So that's kind of like the fun house, right? And even like when people fall into your 5th house, it's like, again, you have fun with these people, right? It could be love, dating, and relationships, but it's still a little bit more lighthearted, if that makes sense. The 6th house is going to be like your daily acquaintances. It's going to be your colleagues, like people that you know, but you're not besties with necessarily. And then the 7th house, like by the time I get to the 7th house, we are now making the connections, okay? With the 7th house energy, it's like, it's Libra, right? Like they are gathering people, and it's usually like a party host type of energy, right? So that's Libra. And usually it's like the people have something in common, let's say with the Libra individual. They might not all have something in common with each other, but the Libra person is able to connect people, right? So like, let's say you need a hairdresser, or you need a barber, or you need a nail tech, you know what I mean? Like Libra is going to have somebody for everybody, right? And they're always going to know somebody, okay? By the time we get to Aquarius energy, so even before that, the 8th house is going to be like intimate connections, right? So people you're merging with. The 9th house are spiritual connections. You can look at it that way as well. The 9th house are also people you are learning from, okay? In terms of, again, I'm kind of going through the houses in terms of, you know, what kinds of relationships you might have with these people, right? And then the 10th house is like your business relationships, right? Or like people who help you with work and, you know, climbing the ladder and all these types of things, right? By the time you get to the 11th house, again, it's connections, right? Because you're coming out of the 10th, you're going into the 11th, right? So it's like there's still an element of like, you know, some sort of mission, right? Some sort of purpose, okay, with these individuals in your 11th house, okay? Something higher minded with the 11th house is basically what that is. And then the 12th house are going to be past life people, basically. So that's kind of how it works with all of the houses. You said, what do I think about a lot of famous presidents? Like Lincoln, I'm not going to say their names. And then you said having Mars in the 8th house, you find that interesting. You'll see that a lot. You'll see that a lot with people who are looking for positions of power, right? And president is kind of like the ultimate position of power. So you'll see that energy in there, okay, with these individuals. I mean, I'm not surprised that they have it, right? Because again, it's hustle, okay, trying to make it to the top, trying to get the, you know, like notoriety and all these things with that 8th house. And it's like stealthy. It's like operating behind the scenes, basically. You said Virgo be like, let me do that for you. Libra be like, do it for me, please. I like that. I like that. Let me screenshot this. You said the dichotomy between, oh my gosh, what did I click? Did you guys see the change? Why is it doing that? Okay, I'm back. I'm not sure what was going on with that. Yes, if you would like your own reading, send me an email. I do natal chart readings, progress natal chart readings, synastry readings, mini natal chart readings. So you guys can send me an email and we'll go from there. Give me 1 second, you guys. All right, I'm back. Okay, right? I don't know what that was because like I've been doing lives like horizontally, and then today it just like ended up vertical, and I was like, let me just go with it, like whatever. And then it's like there's been an update, I guess, so you can like put on a green screen or whatever, but I just don't know how it came up by itself. So anyways, I'm curious to see. I'm gonna watch the replay to see what you guys saw, because to me it was just like a green screen, but I'm curious to know like what you guys saw or what's gonna pop up when it like posts afterwards. You said the dichotomy between Pluto and Uranus. You said, but you got the right one for that topic. Uranus asking questions and Pluto is like, who wants to know? I love that. Oh my gosh, you guys are so funny. Hey. You said, Let me just see what else you guys were saying in here. You said Mars, Capricorn, Venus conjunct woman's, okay, man's Capricorn, Venus conjunct woman's Capricorn, Neptune, and Uranus. Okay, that's going to be an interesting dynamic there. I'm just going to say it depends how evolved he is, okay? Because when you have Venus conjunct Neptune, unconsciously, first of all, you could be playing into a fantasy for that person, right? Because of the Neptune. And then it depends how evolved the person is, because it's like, first of all, they can put you up on a pedestal, but at the same time, especially because Uranus is in there as well, it's like they can kind of tear you down off that pedestal. So it's going to be a lot of like worship, but then, you know, inconsistent behavior too with the Uranus in there as well. Sometimes Venus and Uranus like aspects kind of start off unexpectedly, the relationship. So it's like maybe you guys meet when you guys are working, or maybe you're both in relationships and you guys meet, okay? So there's going to be like an inconsistent energy also, right? Because it's like a sudden unexpected change. So like at first it could be exciting, right? But for long term, Venus and Uranus and synastry is like, you guys kind of have to keep the relationship always exciting. I hope that makes sense, okay? So that's Venus and Uranus, but it's like quote unquote electrifying, right? That's kind of how Uranus operates. So it depends, again, how evolved is this person that you're dealing with, because for you, it's your generational placements that are aspecting their, you know, personal placements, right? So his personal placement. So it depends also, does he have this happening in his chart already? Because if he has it in his chart already, you are now echoing the behavior, okay, that he might have. So he might already have the tendency to kind of go into like dreaming world, like the dream world, dreaming when it comes to relationships, like the illusions, the delusions, you know what I mean? It's such a fine line. So it's a lot of like, when you have Venus, Neptune, it's like, yes, it might feel like a soulmate dynamic, but it depends how evolved is the person, right? Because at the same time, it could be a lot of them putting you on a pedestal, but then it's like, they can also feel deceived by you, right? But it's like, it's actually self-deception. I hope that makes sense, okay? So it depends what's going on with Venus and Neptune. But it's like, if the energy is evolved, right? And like the best case scenario, it's like, you know, the unconditionally loving relationship, like a soulmate type of dynamic, right? But it's like, that's kind of like in a perfect world if both people are evolved, okay? So it depends. It depends how evolved are the people with synastry always. You said, no, he doesn't. He's 11 years older. Okay, well, that's good. That's good, because it's like, if it was already happening in his chart, it's like, that will kind of be like a pattern that you're basically bringing to the surface for him. I hope that makes sense. So it's this, with the Venus, Uranus, it depends, because I'm curious to know if there's any other Saturn aspects, if you're looking for something longer term, or if he has, I guess it is in Capricorn. So like, it being in Capricorn is going to give it a little bit more of a serious energy. It's just like that Neptune energy. It's like you unconsciously feed into, also at the same time without realizing, into a fantasy that this person might have. So it could end up being like deception on both sides. I hope that makes sense, okay? Deception for you, because you might not necessarily be true to yourself, and then deception for him, because it's like he doesn't see you clearly, okay? But it's like, those are usually like instant attraction types of aspects, Venus, Neptune, Venus, Uranus, and it might even feel kind of like a past life type of situation. Hey, oh my gosh, you're in Amsterdam. How's it going? Hey, Gladys. What's new? Oh my gosh, yay, I'm glad that, okay, it's a work relationship. Yeah, the Venus Uranus, like when you have that synastry, it's usually someone that you wouldn't really get involved with like right off the bat. Does that make sense? It doesn't mean you're not gonna be attracted to them. It's just like, you know, it's like someone that is unexpected. That's just how Venus Uranus works, right? So it's like, you don't expect this, you know, to bloom into anything, right? So it's exciting, it's fun. But again, it always depends how evolved are the two people with the synastry always. You said if your moon is in Sag, does that mean the entire Pluto in Sag generation will trigger you always? Depends, right? Because you're already, it depends how used to the energy you are, is basically what that is. If you have your moon in Sag, it's just like, it depends also, because here's the thing, okay? If you have moon Pluto aspects with people, it's just like always the relationship for you will be a power struggle with that person, right? So obviously you have the free will to do what you want, but it might be better for you to date outside of your generation, right? Because then it's like, it's not moon Pluto, and moon Pluto is power struggles. Now the thing is, like, it can be intimate relationships, absolutely, but it's like your moon is in Sag, right? So it's like you're looking for freedom, but it's like, especially if it's like a friendship or like an intimate type of situation, it depends, right? Because I'm also curious to know, like, do you have the moon Pluto aspect taking place in your chart, right? Because it's like, if you're used to this energy, right, you know how to maneuver it, because it's always going to come up. But if it goes into the shadow, it can really go into like jealousy, possessiveness, manipulation, all these things, okay, with the moon Pluto. So if you want to kind of avoid like power struggles and these types of things in relationships, probably best to kind of look outside of the generation, right? So either older or younger, but again, it's up to you essentially. You said, what do I think about disassociated aspects Do you have an example? You said absolutely, totally unexpected attraction. Yep, the Venus-Uranus is always unexpected. It's going to be something that you don't expect. It's fun. Do you know what I mean? But also at the same time, Uranus can be short-lived. Do you know what I mean? This is why you'll see this in flings, right? Or someone when they go away on a summer, vacation, right? That's Venus-Uranus. It's exciting, but that's what Uranus is. That's why it's harder to have these relationships, longer term, because it's like you're going to always have to keep it fresh. You can, but it's like you're going to have to always keep things new and exciting when you have Uranus, right? Because it's, again, instability, which is interesting. That's kind of like the theme of the chat today, okay? The instability of Uranus is really, really what that is, because Uranus is like, they switch up, right? It's sudden, unexpected change. So enjoy it for what it is. You know what I mean? Hey, you said Uranus in the 8th house is really shaking up the money of your close ones, at least what you can observe. Exactly. It's kind of where you are going to have instability, okay? So it's like, even if you have, let's say, Venus-Uranus in your own chart, for example, okay, Venus-Uranus in your own chart is going to bring through instability. Yes, in relationships, you're also going to want to, seek out new things a lot of the time, but also it brings through quote-unquote instability when it comes to finances, okay? So it's like, again, it depends how you look at it, because it's like when you see people who have Venus-Uranus, they might not be able to hold down, let's say, a regular, typical, maybe 9-to-5 type of job. You'll see this within people who are freelancers or people who are actors or actresses or in the creative field, or you'll see that with people who are, for example, entrepreneurs, people who don't necessarily have a stable or steady income. Okay, that's Venus-Uranus. So it just is what it is with the Venus-Uranus energy. And then also when you have it like in terms of your like relationships, right? These people tend to be always looking for something new is basically what that is. Okay, they're not consistent unless, again, there's a Saturn aspect taking place in there or something of this sort. You said, what do I predict the Saturn-Neptune conjunction will be like collectively and individually? I don't do predictions. I don't like doing predictive types of things. I find that, in one way, shape, or form, when you do a prediction, people, first of all, are looking for some sort of answer because it's like coming from a place of like wanting to control the future, and it kind of takes you out of living in the moment, right? But it's like overall, we're going through change, right? We're going through collective change is really, really what it is. And Saturn-Neptune is just like interesting to me because Saturn restricts and then Neptune is trying to expand. So it can go a few ways because that could be like restriction on spirituality, for example, and it always depends. Do you go into the Saturn or do you go into the Neptune, right? So it depends. But yeah, I don't really do predictive types of things because of this. You said you're born with Jupiter and stellium in the 2nd house, and now it's back there. Isn't that the Jupiter return? Yeah, every time you go through like the conjunction, it's like the return. Does that make sense? So like Saturn return is like when Saturn conjuncts your natal Saturn. Hey, how are you guys doing? You said Gemini sun. Thank you, Alex. Gemini sun, Gemini moon, and Aquarius rising. Gemini sun, Gemini moon, and Aquarius rising. I was just reading what you guys were saying. Okay, Gemini sun, Gemini moon, Gemini. Okay, oh my gosh, how many times am I going to say Gemini? Gemini sun, Gemini moon, and Aquarius rising. What would you like to know about that, Alex? Let me know. You said K2 is your south node. K2 in terms of K2 Venus in the 10th. So a lot of your past life situations, okay, friendships, relationships, or like a lot of your relationships are connected to a past life, first of all, okay, with the K2 in there. And it's in the 10th house. So it's interesting. That means your north node would be in the 4th. So it's like part of your life purpose in this lifetime is to kind of operate from behind the scenes. I kind of feel like your relationships, first of all, a lot of them are karmic, but in general in life, everything is karmic is the way that I see it. But at the same time, is like you're kind of clearing, the way that I see south node sometimes is like the earlier part of your life, you're kind of clearing whatever's going on with the south node, and then you kind of want to apply it in a north node type of way. I hope that makes sense, okay? So with Venus in here, Venus basically is your relationships, your romantic relationships, your, interpersonal relationships, all these things. And it's with the south node. So a lot of people are coming through from your past life to clear things with, but at the same time, these people could be pulling you out of your life purpose. Does that make sense? So try not to get distracted, I guess. Hey, DJ. Oh my gosh, you're so funny. I love that. Yeah, time has been flying. What is new? Okay, Alex, you want to know about jobs. So Gemini sun, Gemini moon, Aquarius rising. So first of all, the Aquarius rising is something unconventional, right? So it has to be something that's catered to your energetic signature, right? And it's also, like I mentioned earlier, okay, something for some sort of higher mission, higher purpose for the Aquarius energy. And then Gemini is here to talk, okay? about connections and meeting people. So Alex, you probably get a lot of jobs more so through the people that you know, right? Not so much like job applications. It's like because you made friends with this person, you know, you went to the store and they ended up being the manager and they're like, oh my gosh, I love your personality. Let me hire you. Do you know what I mean? So going out there and chatting with people. Overall, though, if you look at just Gemini, you know, Gemini Sun, Gemini Moon, the energy there deals with anything to do with like PR, marketing, social media even, okay? Journalism, anything to do with like, again, the written or the spoken word. So you could be interested in like working in marketing or slogans, or sometimes even just like, you know, when people make like websites for people, you know what I mean? But it's usually connected to like assisting people, right? It deals with people. So you kind of want to be interacting with people, okay? With that energy, because it's like you can talk, essentially, is really, really what that is. So that's basically the gist of it. Hey Riley, how are you doing? You said you've definitely been learning about your Capricorn South Node. Yeah, the South Node is definitely interesting. You said Neptune Aries reminds you of the movie Ready Player One. I don't know what movie that is. You said any thoughts on Mars in the 8th house in Leo. So you want to be seen, okay? The way you guys can look at Mars is like Mars, you can look at it as your solar plexus. So it's like part of your identity for you is Leo, okay? So probably like part of your drive and your ambition is rooted in wanting to be seen, wanting to get the notoriety. Do you know what I mean? Wanting to get the praise, right? But at the same time, that could hold you back. You know what I mean? Sometimes Leo wants to be there right away. Sometimes Leo can fear rejection. You know, sometimes Leo can have too much of an ego. You know what I mean? It's kind of like sometimes Leo can think things are quote unquote beneath them, you know, because again, it's like that regal energy, you know, but everyone starts at 0 and most people start at the bottom, right? Unless they have certain connections, right? But most people are going to start at 0. So that's something that Leo kind of has to come to terms with, because it's like, they really fight with that within themselves, right? And, you know, sometimes it can even be self-worth, right? With Mars and Leo as well. In general, right? The solar plexus chakra, like you might have to break through all of these things. Because again, 8th house, right? You're trying to get to power, okay? You're trying to get to power and control ultimately. And in this current world that we're living in, money is power and control, okay? So that's basically what's going on there. I'm glad that resonated. Okay, I'm going back up to see what you guys were saying up here. You said man's Venus conjunct female North Node. So basically he's kind of assisting you, right? In terms of your direction. The vision that I got for that actually was kind of like, for example, when we had, I'm trying not to say their names, but like, okay, you know, like Kanye, okay? So that actor or singer or whatever, okay? And then his ex-wife, so Kimk, okay? So you know how he would like, you know, dress her or tell her what to wear in terms of fashion and these types of things. Like that's kind of giving me that energy, right? Because it's his Venus conjuncting North Node. I mean, I'm not sure if that's in their synastry, but that's kind of like the vibe that I'm getting here, right? It's like even his love language in this case, like the man, because you're saying man's Venus conjuncting the female's North Node. Basically anything that deals with Venus and his Venus is kind of basically activating. You can look at it as like activating. It's activating your life purpose, okay, in that particular synastry. So that's basically what's going on with that. Maybe it's his love language that activates your North Node. Maybe he inspires you in some sort of creative way, whether it's fashion, whether it's art, but that's basically the gist of it, okay? Hey, how are you guys doing? Hey, Christina, how are you doing? Christiana. You said late degree Scorpio, opposite early degree. And then you said example, early degree Gemini, for example. And then you said, hey, how are you doing? You said if someone has, thank you guys for the likes. Yes, make sure you guys like the video. You said if someone has a Cancer rising, does that mean they're headed toward nurturing in this lifetime? Exactly. Or are they headed toward their progressed ascendant Leo later on? Exactly. You got it, right? So it's the both of them together, right? It's an amalgamation of the energies when you're looking at the secondary progressions, okay? So you're going toward the direction of Cancer, healing, nurturing, assisting people. Now, the thing is, it doesn't just have to be like literal, right? Because I've seen managers, for example, have Cancer rising. And in that case, it's like, you know, they're very nice managers. They kind of understand the needs of their employees, for example, these types of things, right? Because like all the cardinal signs are the starters, okay? It's the beginning of the season. So it's like, even though Cancer is like the home and it's nurturing, it's still a starter, right? So I've seen managers have that actually, but I've seen a lot in terms of Cancer rising. I've seen a lot of nurses. I've seen a lot of social workers have this. I've seen a behavioral therapist have this. Anyone who's in these types of fields, maybe social worker, you know? But it's you're going in that direction. And when you progress into Leo, you know, you're kind of maybe shining. So for example, that could be you know, let's say in the early part of your life, you work as a nurse, and then later on, maybe you do training, for example, in the nurse field, or maybe you get, let's say, like accolades in the nurse field, for example. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of how that could progress as an example, okay? But also Cancer into Leo, I've seen even a lot of singers have this, right? Like Cancer can be creative, right? And it's like you kind of go out of Cancer, you go into Leo, it's like you're kind of taking all this creative energy and you're putting it out there now. So that's kind of how that could work as well. Hey Bella, how are you guys doing? Hey Christine. Oh my gosh, I know, I'm glad that you're here. Okay, it looks like, from what I'm noticing, that the vertical live, see, everything happens for a reason. It looks like the vertical live, maybe you guys get the notifications for the vertical live. Exactly, Lana. Oh my gosh, Esperanza, that's exactly who I was thinking of. Lana Del Rey, exactly. She's the perfect example, okay, of the progression out of Cancer into Leo. But yes, it is interesting because it kind of looks like YouTube is like promoting more so the vertical live. So really, really interesting to see that take place. Let's see, what else you guys saying? You said, hi, Barbara. Hey, me. You said, if you're taking questions, I'm absolutely taking questions, you guys. Anything you guys want to know, feel free to comment below. You said, what are my thoughts about South Node, Virgo, North Node, Pisces energy? Then you said, those are also your personal placements. Your Cancer, Taurus, Scorpio, Midheaven, Leo. Okay, hold on a second. Your South Node is Virgo, and then your North Node is Pisces. Can you tell me also, if you're still in the room, what house do you have your South Node and your North Node in? And then when you said those are also your personal placements, are you talking about Virgo and Pisces are your personal placements? Or are you talking about like the Cancer, Taurus, Scorpio, and then you mentioned the Midheaven and Leo? Let me know. You said Venus in Aries, what's the best sign to date? So hard. I knew you were going to say stop. It's like literally I pick up on what you guys are thinking as I say it, because I said, hey, me, but the person's name was M-I, which was me. I wasn't saying, hey, me, aka hey to myself, but also hey. So, okay, DJ, you said Venus in Aries. You said, what's the best sign to date? Okay, Venus in Aries, let me think about this, because honestly, I would have to look at your chart, because you can look at like Venus compatibility, but like when we look at synastry, there's so much to look at. You know what I mean? You want to look at your 7th house. What do you have in the 7th house as well? You also want to look at the 7th house ruler. Do you know what I mean? So it's not as like simple in terms of Venus in Aries, right? Like just that. But you know, if you want to know just for Venus in Aries, probably you're going to get along with maybe the cardinal energies. But here is the thing, right? Because like I'm saying you can get along with the cardinal energies, but maybe some of the cardinal energies go and like they fall into a specific house in your chart that you don't necessarily get along with. Does that make sense? So it's like there's so much to look at, because it's like in terms of relationships, you guys, you want to look to see who falls into your 4th house, who falls into your 7th house, who falls into your 8th house, and even your 12th house sometimes, okay? That's kind of what you want to look for to see in terms of compatibility, because Venus in Aries, like just the Venus in Aries on its own, like it can go through different compatibilities, like for different reasons with different people, right? But let's say, even if I say to you now, right, like Venus in Aries, let's say you're going to get along with like a Venus in Libra, for example, well then maybe you have like Libra maybe in the 2nd house, you know what I mean? And then there isn't really a connection there, you know? So it's like there's so much more to look at, you know? It's not that simple. Yes, I have tried astrocartography, but usually what I recommend to you guys is to look at the synastry between you and that city. Does that make sense? You said Aquarius, see, and then you have Aquarius 7th house, and you have Mars in Aquarius as well. Mars in Aquarius is kind of like the rebel energy. Energetically, like it needs the space, and same thing with the 7th house in Aquarius. Like you need that space when it comes to relationships. And I'm also curious to know, do you have aspects to your Venus as well? You said you have South Node and Sagittarius, North Node and Gemini. Did you say it's in the 8th house? Because it's usually in the opposite, like opposing house. It's usually supposed to be in the 9th house. So I'm curious to know how yours is in the 8th house. Okay. You said you have Virgo and Pisces nodes. Can you tell me what houses they are in? I'm not sure if you're still checking. You said, do I have advice? You have Pluto in the 1st house, Aries, Sun in the 8th house, so much Pluto. Yes, that's intense. That's a lot of shadow work, okay? Basically that you're meant to clear in this lifetime with all that Pluto energy and the 8th house energy. It's intense because not only this, it's like you're also clearing anything to do with jealousy, manipulation, possessiveness, for example. And it's like sometimes you clear it in yourself, but then you attract people like that to you. You know what I mean? Because it's in your energetic field. So it's definitely a struggle. But discernment is definitely going to assist you on your journey. And you're looking for depth, essentially, within other people, okay, with all of that energy. Okay, Mimi, how are you? Okay, so you said Pisces 5th house, and then Virgo is in the 11th house. So is Pisces your North Node? You're welcome. Okay, guys, give me 1 second. All right, I am back. You said you feel like where your Venus is what you attract or are attracted to, but then we also have Mars. You know what I mean? Mars can also be attraction too. So it depends. And then you have your aspects. And then also it's just like there's so much to look at because it's like depending, I have a video on this on my channel too, you guys. It's called like the energy of your future partner or something like that. It was one of the recent ones. But it's like also, okay, if you're into men, you're going to look at your sun, you're going to look at your Mars, and you're going to look at your Saturn, right? If you're into women, you're going to look at Moon, and you're going to look at Venus, right? Those are the energies that you're pulling through. So it's just like, there's so much to look at. It's not so simple, right? I mean, I could give you like a simple answer if we just look at the one isolated aspect, but there's a lot more to the story. Do you know what I mean? In terms of attraction, who you are pulling through. Yes, absolutely. 12th, 8th, 4th, and 7th house for a relationship. You will see this a lot of the time within families. Their aspects and their placements are falling into a lot of the time, I'm going to say the 8th house or even the 12th house, because you'll see like within families, like everyone kind of has their guard down, right? And it's like shadow work season, you know? So you'll see that. You'll see 8th house a lot within families and family dynamics, but same thing, like even if you have 4th house synastry, like someone's placement's falling into your 4th house, they feel like family to you. 12th house is past life people, right? It kind of feels like a connection, instant connection with the 12th house. And then 7th house is just relationships in general, okay? So is this, you said, was I referring to you? No, I was talking about, somebody else asked a question, so it's interesting. Maybe you have 8th house energy in your chart as well. Somebody else asked the question about just like 8th house in general, or just like having Pluto energy in a chart and how to navigate that. So that's who I was responding to. So you said Pisces is your north node. Okay, let me go back up. So you said Pisces is your north node in the 5th house, and then Virgo is your south node in the 11th house. So basically you're coming from a past life that could have been very grounded. It could have been very linear. It could have been very much about the day-to-day. Now you're kind of going off into like the metaphysical realms, right? With the Pisces energy in there. Like it's a healing lifetime, but it could be energy, healing energy work. But keep in mind, like sometimes it doesn't have to be directly you're doing energy work, right? It could be like you write a book, for example, or it could be like, you know, you write a screenplay, because Pisces is like the dreamy world, right? So you're going to have like that imagination taking place, and it's in the 5th house. So you literally want to be seen creatively in this lifetime. So the 5th house is like physical creativity, and then the 11th house is going to be creativity of the mind, right? So it's the creativity access. So the way that I see it these days with the north node, south node is like, if you fully completed the south node, you wouldn't be reincarnating again, okay? So it's like you might fall toward the south node because you have mastered it, but you want to take the south node and apply it in a north node type of way. That's how I see it, okay? So it's this. So with Virgo, it's like, it's more so linear, not linear because it's like Virgo can be intuitive, but it's like, again, about the day-to-day, right? The earth plane, everything like earthly, okay, with the Virgo energy. And that could have been your previous lifetime. Like maybe you were an engineer, for example, with that energy, okay? Virgo in the 11th, this lifetime you're coming through with the North Node in Pisces and in the 5th house. It's like creativity that's more maybe abstract or art in general, or it could be music, or it could be, let's say, film, like I mentioned, okay? Anything of this sort, because it's the 5th house too. So you kind of want to be seen physically, okay? Oh my gosh, Sue. Hey, Sue loves astrology. How are you doing? What's new? You said, yes, you're a Scorpio rising. North node Pisces, perfect. You said Taurus moon and Cancer sun. Cancer sun might be something that you might have to integrate, for example, right? Because the Cancer energy kind of pulls people out of where it is that they're trying to go, because there's like the orphan energy, right? Or like feeling abandoned with Cancer, right? Or sometimes you feel lethargic when you have Cancer energy in your chart as well. So that could be something that you might have to integrate. You said most of the time you're not going to know you were healing or doing shadow work unless you're astrologically savvy. Exactly. But even then, usually you can't tell until you're out of the situation. Do you know what I mean? That tends to happen a lot of the time. It's only when you're like out of a certain situation that you can like sense, okay, like that was intense, or wow, like what was that? You know what I mean? Or like you detach and you're like, okay, like that was like a lot, you know? You said thoughts on South Node in Taurus and the 4th house, North Node in Scorpio and the 10th. So basically you're heading into the public arena in this lifetime. In the previous lifetime with Taurus in there, you could have been more grounded. It could have been again about the day-to-day, like just like, you know, going to work, making your money, you know, the earthly experience, right? With the Taurus energy, living like through the senses, and it's in your 4th house. So it could have been like work, home, work, home, work, home. You know what I mean? It really could have been that vibe. Now you're kind of coming out, do you know what I mean, to the public. It's going to be a struggle, okay? When you have Scorpio in the 10th, because Scorpio wants to hide, but at the same time, Scorpio wants power and control, right? So it's like you're going to have to push through that energy within, essentially, okay? When you have North Node in Scorpio in the 10th house, okay? Because it's the public energy. Like you're kind of meant to be interacting with the public in one way, shape, or form. Now it could be a public job, okay? Absolutely. It could be a public job. You know, you could work for the government. You could work for, you know, some sort of public sector, right? Or overall, it could just be public. You know, you're kind of working with the public in one way, shape, or form. And because it's Scorpio, it's kind of like you're transmuting energy for the public as well, okay? It's energy work, essentially. Hey, Bella, you said Cancer rising 29 degrees. Oh, that is intense at 29 degrees. You don't get out of the energy until you master it. Let me go back up to the top and see who I may have missed up here. Let's see. What are you guys saying? Venus, Chiron, 12th house in Cancer. Okay. So Venus and Chiron, when you guys have that together, okay, and not only is it together for you, it's also in the 12th house, which is interesting, okay, because you're bringing through past life karma with people, okay, or even like past life enemies with Venus and the 12th are coming through in this lifetime, and you have Chiron in there, so you're literally healing through your relationships. First of all, when I see Venus and Chiron, I can usually sense it within a person too. It's usually someone who feels like, again, you know, there's a wound around friendships or relationships overall. So it's like they might feel left out, for example, from their friends, or they might feel like, again, fear of missing out, for example, or they might feel abandoned. Do you know what I mean with the Venus Chiron? So it's something that you have to transmute, and you're kind of carrying the wound over from a previous lifetime. Very interesting, because someone earlier had that Chiron in the 12th house as well, that energy taking place, and it's in Cancer. So it's like the Cancer energy is like abandonment connected to the home, abandonment connected to the family, abandonment connected to, you know, emotional abandonment, though I find with Cancer, like it's more so like an emotional abandonment with Cancer, you know, or like emotional neglect, for example. So you might feel that from your friends, but at the same time, you're meant to clear that through, let's say, your friendships or romantic relationships and these types of things, okay? Just reading what you guys are saying. You said Mercury went into Aries today. You said you already like the energy. Nice. It's nice when we go into Aries because it's like the beginning of the year. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, a fresh energy, the spring equinox. I'm so here for that. You said 11th house. Okay, I answered that already. You said, how would I describe a Virgo Venus man? You said Venus in the 3rd house. Usually they tend to be very critical of women or their female partners, unless there's something else going on in there to kind of subside that energy with the Virgo Venus. You know, it's like, I don't know, they kind of always are nitpicky, I guess the word is here, okay, when it comes to their relationships. So it depends, okay, unless maybe you have, again, Virgo occupying your 8th house or maybe your 4th house, not so much maybe the 12th, but regardless, right? One of these houses where it's like the energy could feel more of like a intimate connection, for example. It's like they can be very like nitpicky, essentially, okay? They can kind of look to take on projects. Does that make sense? For anybody who has Virgo Venus, right? But I've noticed, especially like with men who have Moon or Virgo in Venus, like for them, they tend to sometimes even be single for long periods of time because it's like they're kind of looking for some sort of ideal partner, right? And it's like even if they start dating someone, it's like it's not that ideal that they're looking for. So it's like they can be highly critical, if that makes sense, okay, with the Virgo energy. But that can also happen for women as well. Do you know what I mean? Yes, Aries gang. Oh my gosh, March 22nd. Oh yes, you're on the 22nd. Nice. Happy almost birthday. You said you feel like you have to travel abroad often to transcend the energy. You watched my foreign travel video. Yeah, because here's the thing. That's what I was saying to you guys also in that video or like in that live as well. Another thing that I was thinking about too for the 12th house, it's like because the energy merges, not only do you merge to people, you also merge to places. And that's why sometimes you have to switch up the vibes, okay? Because down here on this earth plane, it's very dense, okay? And it's very dark, as you guys know. And it's just like overall, like very flat, the energy, right? So if you're in a place for too long and you don't have movement taking place, right? Whether it's like, it doesn't have to be just travel. It's just like travel really refreshes the vibes for the 12th house individual. But if it's not this, it's just like you start to kind of merge, okay, to the energy around you, even of the place, right? Like let's say the building that you live in, or let's say your workplace, you kind of like start to merge to the energy. So moving around, okay, or traveling or switching up the vibes overall is going to refresh the energy and help you not merge. Does that make sense? So it's not always just the people. It can also be to like places as well. Hey, you guys. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to be right back. So hopefully the live doesn't glitch. Okay, guys, I'm back. I just went to get my ring light. Oh my gosh, I feel Okay, guys, I'm back. I just went to get my ring light. Oh my gosh, I feel reborn. Let's see. Sometimes it needs a second to just like acclimatize to me like reopening it again. Hey everyone, hey Indigenous being, how are you doing? You said you also adjust the clocks in Germany. Nice, so you spring forward. Is it frozen? Let me know because it just like froze for me for just a second. Okay, you said you have Moon in Scorpio conjunct Pluto and it's intense. Yeah, it's definitely intense. It's definitely intense. It's a lot, because not only is it in Scorpio, it's conjuncting Pluto, and your Pluto's probably in Scorpio too, right? So it's just like, it's a lot. Honestly, it is a lot, because it's like, not only are you feeling your own stuff, you're feeling everybody else's stuff around you, and then you can see through everybody. And then it's like, when you have a Moon in Scorpio, if someone's trying to enter your vicinity, you're going to put through this person through tests, like subconsciously. So it's intense. You said, can you tell it will be your last lifetime here in your chart? I do. So here's the thing, okay? When I was younger, I used to look at the 12th house energy as like part of the last lifetime, right? But these days, I've kind of seen like just psychically, like if you have a lot of 12th house, you're kind of accumulating karma from a lot of previous lifetimes. So it's like the way that I saw it, this isn't like a thing in astrology, this is just the way that I see it, right? So the way that I see it sometimes is like the more 12 house that you have, the more you've accumulated karmically, right? So then you have more to clear in this lifetime. So these days, my view on that is like, I think you can decide for it to be your last lifetime, but you have to be prepared to clear a lot of karma energetically, okay? To exit and then not create new karma. That's kind of like the tricks of the trade. That's the way that I see it, okay? You want to clear whatever you have, like, you know, residual karma from previous lifetimes, and then not engage with creating new karma. And that's going to take a lot of discernment, essentially, okay? And coming out of your lower chakras. So I have a video on this. I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it's something about, like, I think it's like how to not reincarnate again. Check it out. It's going to be under my metaphysical playlist, okay? So everything that I've learned so far, right? So I'm always learning things, but that's just my own opinion at this point in time. It's like you want to clear, okay, whatever you need to clear, and then not create new karma, essentially, and exit, right? And also when you're trying to exit, you know, a lot of Eastern like philosophies used to know how to exit this realm, right? So that's in a lot of like books that I have yet to find, okay? Where it's like they explain how to exit this realm. One thing that I did hear, I don't know if this is true, but they're saying, you know, not to go toward the light. That's what people are saying these days. But I'm curious because they had some sort of method, okay? When you are at that point of crossing out, right? It's like you're trying to figure out which way to go. And I feel like that's part of the reason that a lot of people fear death, in my own opinion, allegedly, is like because people don't know how to cross out properly. And then you kind of get looped back in to coming down here again, okay? So if any of you guys can find those books or, you know, figure out the books, definitely let me know, okay? Or if you know about them, comment below for sure. Okay, I'm just going back up to see who I may have missed. Thoughts on having Lilith in the first house. Sometimes this energy will you know, do anything to be number one. You know what I mean? Like the energy sometimes really wants to be like a manager or a leader or a CEO, and sometimes they'll do anything, right? Because the Lilith can be like the dark side of the self, okay? So just something to keep in mind, that sometimes the energy can be very ruthless, okay? Lilith in the first house. My thoughts on Sun/Venus, exactly conjunct in the 12th house of Aquarius. So, okay, the Venus in the 12th house is like past life enemies coming through as lovers, okay? Or friends or business partners. So when I say enemies, right, it doesn't always mean that they're trying to do something negative. It's just like sometimes the past life enemies are kind of coming like through to throw you off your path, okay? That's the way that I see past life enemies. So in relationships, because again, Venus in the 12th can merge, right? The 12th house always, and also having the sun in the 12th, you might not have a strong sense of self. It's like you can spend a lot of time creating your identity through your relationships, and then you merge to these people, and then it's like, then they're on their merry way, and they kind of throw you off of where it is that you're trying to go, right? So focusing on creating a strong solar plexus, okay, a strong identity, a strong sense of self, so you can kind of have healthy relationships. Otherwise, these people are going to keep pulling you out of where it is that you're trying to go, okay? And that's part of like the tricks down here also, okay, on this earth plane, allegedly in my own opinion, okay? You're trying to do something and then people get sent to you, right? And whatever the wounding is or the soft spot, it's like it pulls you out of where it is that you're trying to go, okay? So Venus in the 12th can also see the best in people. They can also see people through a rose-colored lens, like all these things. And because of that, you can be in situations longer than you should be, okay? Or you can also attract energy vampires. And keep in mind, a high-level narcissist is someone who is very good at mirroring energy back to you, okay? So they're very good at mirroring your energy back to you. And when I say high level, I'm not saying they're the best, because that's obviously what they want to hear, right? High level is just someone like, you know, first of all, they're an empty vessel, but it's like sometimes I feel like these people kind of come through with like unconscious, like, let's say occult knowledge or like dark knowledge, right? So they kind of have mastered, you know, the aspect of mirroring like energy back to you, right? And it's like you kind of hook into that, but it's not even that person. They're just like mirroring you back to yourself. I hope that makes sense, okay? You said, any thoughts on non-duality? Non-duality exists, but not down here, okay? Not down here on this, like in this physical realm, okay? It's in the higher dimensions, okay? The higher up you go, we also don't have physical form, and it's kind of like a soup energy, okay? That's what consciousness is. It's like a soup, okay? There's no physical person. You know they're there, right? But they're not in a physical vessel, right? The third dimension is physical, okay? So down here we have duality. It's really, really what that is. But it does exist, just not in this realm that we're currently in, okay? You're welcome. My sun is in Libra in the 12th house. You said you have 3 planets in the 6th house and 3 planets in the 7th house. What does that mean? So you're mastering relationships, and the 6th house, you kind of have to break free from criticism, usually from other people. You kind of like when you have 6th house, it's like the inner voice becomes a critic, okay? With the 6th house energy. So you have to break free from that because you're kind of looking for perfectionism, and the 6th house is here to learn that perfectionism doesn't exist, or like the perfect ideal case scenario that you're looking for doesn't exist. Like 6th house people are always like renovating something, or like, you know, they get the job and then they want to find another one. Like there's this theme with the 6th house of like things not being enough or not good enough or always wanting more, or because you're looking for perfection, right? And it's like, it's a struggle, okay? Because again, perfection doesn't exist, especially not down here on this earth plane. So that's what the 6th house is learning, okay? Down here on this earth plane, essentially, okay? What do I think about Lilith in the 6th house and Gemini? So that energy sometimes in the shadow can go into like lying, okay? Not being truthful, being deceitful. The 6th house can go into hypochondria when it's in the shadow, because Lilith can be the dark side of the self. So that energy can be like, you know, go into hypochondria or like become very like, you know, like focused on a specific diet, okay? But connected to health usually. With the 6th house, also that energy can be critical as well, or fear criticism. So keep this in mind, okay? You're welcome. You said Virgo be like, I don't stop here. There is more to know and explore in those details. Exactly. You can get lost into it very well. Exactly. You have Mars and Virgo. Exactly. Because Virgo is trying to perfect a thought. Okay. So it's like the quote unquote higher octave of Mercury. Okay. Because Mercury rules Gemini and it rules Virgo. Okay. And they're both mutable, but Virgo can spend their whole lifetime before they change their mind or like change what they want to do, or even for work. Right. And I've noticed with Virgo, like the older that they get, the more they are hesitant to start something new, especially if they've perfected a craft already. Does that make sense? So it's like if they've perfected a craft or they've perfected a career or whatever, they can struggle to start something new, because that means they would have to start at zero again, right? And it's like they're already an expert in a certain area, for example, and they might not necessarily want to start, right? But then there's the other part of Virgo where the energy is mutable. So if it kind of gets to the bottom of something, or they get the information or the research, well, then it's like, then they switch. Do you know what I mean? So it's not so much mutable like Gemini, where Gemini can't hold anything down and Gemini is doing everything all the time, everywhere. You know what I mean? Jack of all trades, right? Virgo is actually spending the time to kind of, you know, focus on a thought. That's why it's like the quote unquote higher octave of Mercury, okay? They're perfecting a thought, they're perfecting a craft, but they're still mutable, right? So when they do perfect it, or they feel like they switch up, okay? Hey, Janina, how are you doing? Any thoughts on North Node and Libra in the 5th house? So part of your life purpose is people, okay? Or working with people, and like your community is kind of helping prop you up into your life purpose as well. And having it in the 5th house, okay? Basically part of your life purpose is to be seen, to be on some sort of stage, creativity, okay? All these things. You said, though we're all in a Saturn cycle, how long does the Saturn return last? Approximately 3 years. You're in a Saturn cycle every 3 years. That's why I was saying to you guys in one of my lives previously that when you learn more about astrology, you kind of figure out that Saturn is operating everything down here, okay? Because you're always in a Saturn cycle. Saturn is changing signs approximately every 3 years. So you're always in a Saturn transit, okay? Which is interesting to me, because like I mentioned even earlier in this live, like people freak out about the Saturn return, but you're always in a Saturn transit, and that's what's annoying. Do you know what I mean? So the way that I see it, like I mentioned even in like the video that I posted today, is like you want to learn to not engage with the energy, because you don't want the energy to control you. The only way you can do that is if you learn about it. Does that make sense? So it's like knowledge is power at the end of the day. I'm back up at the top. You guys also check out my Patreon. I will be posting on there soon. I have 3 tiers on there. Make sure you guys join as a member for the community chat. I have the community chat tier. I have the middle tier, which is like natal chart and synastry readings. I'm going to be posting some metaphysical videos on there as well. And then I have the all access tier as well, where you guys can actually request your own, like, you know, video that you want me to do, right? If you have an aspect, or if you have somebody that you want me to read, or if you have a synastry, you know, reading that you want me to do. So that's the all access tier. And all of the tiers, you have access to the chat, so you guys can meet each other as well, which is awesome, okay? And I will be periodically going live on there. I've decided to stay with the lives here, okay? But again, I'm not going to say how often I'm going to go on live, okay? Because it's just like, I'll chill at the end of the day, right? But yeah, on there, I will be doing lives as well, but I'll be doing it on both essentially, okay? You said, Saturn, Mars, Venus in Gemini in the 1st house, here to speak, here to communicate. You got restricted in that area by the father as well, okay? Your throat chakra. So for example, and you could have gotten restricted in school with Saturn in Gemini, and it's in the 1st. So the father, or like people who are in positions of authority, so like your teachers, your managers, all these people restrict you in the area of expressing, okay? your throat chakra with the Gemini, and then the first house in there, it's like literally they restrict you in the area of the self. I'm curious to know if it was you earlier that I was mentioning that you're kind of meant to break free and like do your own thing if you had all the Aries energy. So I was saying that to someone earlier as well. Hey Clarice, how are you doing? What did I say about Virgo? Does it include progression into Virgo? Yes, that's just Virgo energy in general. Virgo is always trying to like perfect the thought or trying to kind of like upgrade. Hey AA, how are you guys doing? Okay, this is good to know. I feel like YouTube pushes the vertical lives versus the horizontal lives. That's what I've discovered today. You said you're obsessed with mathing out your video game, haha. And then you said fits well into the rest of your chart, and Leo Uranus on your 5th. You know a lot on your field of video game. Good. You said any thoughts on Chiron at 25 degrees, Cancer in the 2nd house. Cancer is also in the 1st house. Okay. Oh my gosh, so many Chiron questions today. I'm so here for that. So you have Chiron at 25 degrees, Cancer, and then you have it in the 2nd house. See, with Chiron, I'm always looking to see, is Chiron aspecting something in your chart, or is it being aspected by something in your chart? Because that's going to give us more to the story, okay? So Chiron and Cancer, so many of you guys today, okay? There's a few of you guys in here. Chiron and Cancer is a wound around the home. It's a wound around feminine energy overall. So it could be around women or just people who operate out of the feminine energy overall. It could be a wound connected to the mother as well with Chiron and Cancer. It could be a fear of abandonment, a fear of, or just like a wound around abandonment and then you fear it, or like a wound around like expressing your emotions and your feelings, all these things, okay? With Chiron and Cancer. So that's that. And then Chiron in the 2nd house is a wound connected to money. So you're also mastering money in this lifetime. So that energy can then manifest into you assisting other people with basically maybe their finances as well, okay? With the 2nd house is personal finances and also self-worth. That's another one too with the Chiron in the 2nd house, okay? There could be a wound around like your self-worth, because you guys, keep in mind, how much money you make is connected to your self-worth, okay? And how much you think your time and energy is worth, essentially, okay? And that's also connected to the feminine energy. So for people who mistreat, let's say, the feminine or just like feminine energy overall, they tend to struggle in the area of finances as well, okay? Or if they suppress it, right? So that's just basically what's going on. So Scorpio rising, Pluto 1st house, squaring planets in Leo, 10th house, Venus, Mercury, North Node, part of fortune. Mars is in the 10th, but not squaring. Hey, Justin, how are you doing? You said, please, what do I think about planets at 29 degrees like Saturn? Yes, that degree is. Basically, when you have a 29 degree aspect, you don't get out of the energy until you master that sign, okay? So I'm curious to know what sign you have in there. Okay, back to the Scorpio rising. Pluto in the 1st house. So people either love you or they don't like you. There's no in between with that energy. This energy is a mirror, okay? And that's why people either love you or they don't like you, because you're mirroring back to people what's going on within them. So that's the first thing, okay? So the first order of business is this, okay? So you're a mirror, essentially, okay? Also attractive, the energy, I'm sure you know, with like Scorpio and Pluto in the 1st, like you have a lot of sexual energy, right? But it's like sexual energy is healing energy, right? So it's like people are drawn to you because essentially you're transmuting energy for them, okay? So you're probably gonna have to spend a lot of time cleansing and clearing your energy, okay? With that like energy taking place in your chart, okay? Then the squaring planets to Leo. So I'm curious to know, is the Pluto in the 1st house squaring, it's squaring, so squaring planets in Leo. So I'm curious to know, because then you said Venus, Mercury, North Node, part of fortune. Is that all in Leo and squaring your Pluto? Let me know, okay? If you're still in the room. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so glad that that resonated. I'm going to screenshot that. Thank you, Rishi. Oh my gosh, see, it's doing it again. Can you guys see that? It keeps doing this green screen thing. Anyways, I'm here. See, this is like the this live today. It's wild because the beginning of the live, I was talking about Aquarius, I was talking about Uranus, and like the live itself, like, you know, the whole screen glitching and all these things is like very Uranus Aquarius vibes, okay? Switching up the vibes. You said, fun fact, 88 to 91 was the generation of Chiron and Cancer. Interesting. That's probably the generation that's also has the mother wound taking place, okay? During that period of time, probably a lot of the mothers were going off into the workforce and working or like hustling, for example, with Chiron and Cancer. You said Saturn and Moon conjunction, does that make life worse? Honestly, everyone fears Saturn, but the way that I see it is like when you have Saturn aspects in your chart, it's actually helping you down here on this Earth plane, because the Earth plane is ruled by Saturn, okay? I always say this. That's just my own opinion, okay? It's obviously all of the planets and placements, but mainly Saturn down here. That's kind of what's like, you know, running the show. Another thing that I was saying about you is when you have Saturn aspects in your chart, you can kind of look at it as like, that's kind of like a soft spot for you where like the Earth plane energetically targets you, okay? It's like a soft spot. So how can I explain this? So for example, because it's like Saturn and the moon, right? It's like, for example, let's say you're trying to do something and you're focusing on a goal, right? And then Saturn is aspecting your moon. It's like, for example, energetically, you could get targeted in the area of your emotions, right? Or that's how like the earth plane can get at you to throw you off your path. Does this make sense? Okay. So it's like they can affect you in an emotional way in one way, shape, or form, or like, let's say you won't be able to express or something of the sort, okay, with the Saturn moon, right? Anytime you have a Saturn aspect, I was thinking about that recently. It's like how the earth plane, okay, or like the MATRX, or like whatever way, shape, or form you guys want to look at it, okay, energetically tries to pull you out of where it is that you're trying to go. You can look at it as like your soft spot. Obviously, there's more things to look at, but like especially the Saturn aspects, I was thinking it's like it's an area of struggle, right? And it's something that's kind of like pulling you out of where it is that you're trying to go, okay? So it could also be, let's say, something to do with like feminine energy overall, or like a relationship with a mother. But like on the flip side of things, you know, the moon and Saturn kind of gives you the hustler mentality, hard work, effort, dedication, okay? So it depends on what way you look at it. But yes, it's kind of like, how do I explain this? It's like a point of contention. You know what I mean? Like everyone has some sort of point of contention, right? Where it's like, if you're trying to do something, there's like a weak spot or a soft spot, right? So I feel like when you have a Saturn aspect, the Saturn aspect is showing you the point of contention for you, right? The first thing that is to go. You know what I mean? Hey, Joseph, how are you doing? Okay, they're all squaring Pluto. That's intense. So you're definitely Plutonian. Let me go back up and see. I'm so glad that you enjoyed the videos, Joseph, the Scorpio videos. If you guys are new here, check out my playlist, okay? My Pride and Glory. I have a special Scorpio 8 house playlist. I have a special 12 house Pisces playlist, okay? And then everything else is kind of divided into categories, sun, moon, you know, all the things. And then also I have a metaphysical playlist. And then I even have an entrepreneurial playlist. That's like very few videos, but if you're interested, you guys can check that playlist out as well. Okay, so back to the squaring aspects here. So all of this, your Venus, Mercury, North Node is squaring Pluto. That's intense, okay? Because it's squaring your Pluto, it's like part of your life purpose is to come into your power, okay? Essentially, but it's like at the same time, because it's Pluto, you might have to do a lot of shadow work to get there, to activate your life purpose. It could be even through your relationships, for example, okay? With the Venus energy. So it's this. I'm so glad that resonated. Okay, yes, the Patreon, I had put the links under my About page. I'll post it on the community tab again, okay? I'm going to be posting a video soon, so that's also how you guys can access it. So go under my About page. It should be there, okay? But I'll post it again on the community tab as well. And honestly, I should start putting it in the description as well. But yes, originally I had put it under the About page, so I need to double check and see if it's there, but that's where it should be, okay, under the links on the About page. And also I will put it on the community tab as well for you guys to join. Again, when I post a video on there, I'll be sharing it on the community tab as well, okay, so you guys can join that way too. And I should actually, just like mental note for myself when I'm rewatching this later, to put it in the description box as well going forward, okay, so it's easier for you guys to access basically. But honestly, if you even go on Patreon, like the website, if you go in if you look for Barbara Talks, like you'll find me, okay? I haven't posted on there yet, but I will be posting soon. Like I have videos, I just have to edit them essentially. Let's see. Hey DZ, you said you're a Sag rising. Nice. Uranus in Sagittarius. Scorpio, hold on. Jupiter, Mars, and Scorpio. Any insight? Can you tell me, DZ, do you have your 12th house occupied by Scorpio overall? I'm curious. Or do you have an interception taking place? You have Pluto, trine, Mercury, Mars, squaring Saturn. Are you Plutonian? You said also Pluto, trine, Uranus, and Neptune. So the Uranus-Neptune is generational. Because it is aspecting your personal placements, you could take on some traits. What you guys can do, if you want to know for sure, is you guys can go under any sort of like astrology website, type in dominance, like your dominant planet, and then it'll tell you, okay, what your dominant energies are, okay? And then if you have Pluto under there, then you're essentially Plutonian, okay? But otherwise, like you'll take on a lot of like traits, right? Like anytime you have Pluto aspects taking place, right, you take on some of these traits. So it depends, right? You want to see if this is one of your like dominant placements, okay, or dominant planets. Okay, 12th house in Scorpio. So this is the thing, okay? When you guys have Sag rising and you have the 12th house in Scorpio, you have a lot of things to clear that are connected to your unconscious, okay? So it's intense because Sag rising, it's mutable, right? So it's like the energy can kind of be scattered because they're processing a lot of things that's connected to the 12th house. So that's kind of where you want to start, right? Look at the 12th house in Scorpio and you try and see how you can process the energy, because it can be a lot of unconscious fears. It could be a lot of things that you carried over from previous lifetimes, like things that might not necessarily be rational fears. You know what I mean? Like all these things. So that's the first order of business for Sag rising, because I've noticed with them, it's like because they're mutable, they can kind of be scattered all over the place. But it's like, I find that the scattered energy for Sag rising, if you guys have the 12th house in Scorpio, okay, if you guys have the 12th house in Scorpio, in that particular case, it's like there's a lot to do with your unconscious, because the 12th house is your unconscious. Does that make sense? So there's a lot here that needs to be cleared, okay? But regardless, after you clear it, okay, and maybe you figure out what you want to do and everything is clear for you, right? You have a clear vision and a clear goal, because that's the thing with Sag. Sag is everywhere, okay? Because it's mutable. This is fun and that's fun, and I want to go on this adventure, right? When Sag kind of focuses the energy, okay? And because Sag is masculine, right? Fire, masculine fire, you know, when they focus, and then you have Scorpio in there in combination, and Scorpio is fixed feminine, you're basically going to be bringing things through, right? It's just a matter of getting to the point of figuring out the goal, right? And especially overall with Sag energy, they're scattered because within Sag in general, okay, the 12th house is Scorpio, right? So for Sag as an energy, that's why they can be scattered, and also it's mutable, right? So it's changing all the time, right? And it's also like not fully operating in the physical, if that makes sense. Like they're out of body in terms of, again, the way that they think. It's like very philosophical and all these things, okay? So it's this. So it's just like, it's a matter of kind of like clearing all of the junk, all of the unnecessary things to figure out what it is that you want to do, and then focusing on that thing. Because I've noticed anytime you see Sag, even in the big three, right? These people tend to be like, if they focus on a goal, they bring it through, and they tend to be very good at it. It's just like, because it's mutable, it takes some time to get there essentially, okay? And then on top of that, Mars and Scorpio, it's like you're bringing things through, right? Because like Mars and Scorpio is just like such focused energy. But same thing, Mars and Scorpio, if it's like underdeveloped, or, you know, if it's not, you know, focused, or like in like the more unhealed version, or unaware, or younger, like whatever way, shape, form you guys want to look at it, the obsession energy usually goes on people. You know what I mean? So it's like you just want to realign the focus for your obsession energy to go toward a goal, okay? And when it's on a goal, it's like you're bringing that particular thing through. So it's powerful. It is, as long as you're not distracted by people, essentially, okay? Thank you, Esperanza. Yeah, I cannot talk slowly. I absolutely can't, okay? It just is what it is. As before, you said, any idea on where to learn numerology besides YouTube? I honestly have no idea. I'm sure you can find books. It's so interesting. When I was 10 years old and I went into chapters with one of my friends at the time, you know, we went straight. It's just so wild to see how just like some things are always there. You know what I mean? We literally went straight to the New Age section, and there was like a lot of books, and we were like learning about all these things. So I'm sure if you go into, again, maybe any bookstore or anything of that sort, like you'll find more books and you'll find more information. Or these days you can even listen to audiobooks, right? If you get them on whatever, Amazon or any of those like platforms. So there's that too. You're welcome. You know, that's a very good question, Silverus. Okay, you said, so if we all worshipped if we all worship Saturn, okay, like the upper groups, I'm kind of speaking between the lines here. You said, will it help us the way that it helps them? Because why did they worship Saturn? They worship it because Saturn's operating this airplane, essentially, allegedly, in my own opinion, okay? But it's like the more that you learn, you'll see that they're worshiping essentially Saturn. That's what's happening down here. Check out my threads. I have some videos that I posted on there that I found from other people afterwards. So wild, like when you come to a conclusion, it like floods your feed, essentially. So I've learned a lot more things since then, but it was just like very obvious to me, because the whole way I came to that conclusion, you all, is when I was trying to figure out someone's rising sign, and I don't do that professionally. You have people who do it professionally. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Basically, like people who, if you don't know your birth time and you don't know your rising sign, you know, you have people who are going to ask you about a series of events and all these things to figure out what your rising sign is, okay? So the way that I would figure it out for people is based on their Saturn transits, okay? And that's how I figured out that Saturn is like ruling everything down here, okay? So that's how I came to that conclusion. So Saturn's ruling everything. So that's what's going on. They're worshiping Saturn. Now the thing is, here is the issue, okay? Here is the issue. By them worshiping Saturn, they're giving it more power, right? So it's like, it kind of depends like what the perspective here is, because it's like the way that I see it is like you want to break free from the whole energetic structure overall, right? Is really, really what it is. But that's what's going on with them. And then like the more you start to learn about it, it's like everything for them is revolving Saturn. They always have like Saturn tattoos, or the logos are like Saturn, or like infiltrated with Saturn. So it's really interesting to see, but that's pretty much how far I've gotten with that train of thought. Saturn is ruling everything. You're always in a Saturn transit down here, okay? And yeah, so if you guys want more information on that, check out my threads, because like I've been going off on there essentially, okay? But it's interesting because it's like Saturn, okay, it's actually Satan, okay? So that's like how that is all connected, and like it's more esoteric. Like there's so much more to look at, okay? There's just so much more, because like just recently I discovered about like phallic worship or whatever, and like that's a whole other like category, and like that information, like I'm still learning about like what's going on with like that category. So there's just so much, especially when you get into like the whole world of like esoterica, mysticism, theology, like all the things. There's so much going on. Hey Esther, how are you doing? You said if you have a lot of squares in your natal chart, is that considered a bad thing? You're still learning about your own chart so far. It seems like you have a lot of squares. Squares are like points of contention essentially, but also with squares, you can kind of look at it as like one planet is trying to do one thing, the other planet is trying to do another thing. So it depends which of the planets do you go into. The way that I see it is like you want to integrate the energy so you can work with both essentially. Okay, but up until that point in time, you're kind of being pulled on two different directions. Like even the opposition is a little bit easier to deal with because with oppositional energies, they still have something in common. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes the energy can complement the other aspect. Do you know what I mean? But with squares, it's literally friction, right? So I don't look at anything as good or bad, to be honest, because it just is what it is. It's in your chart. It might be a little bit more challenging, but at the same time, it's an opportunity for growth and for you to kind of overcome the energy within, okay? Okay, Joseph, you're asking about tuning into your Scorpio energy. Check out my whole Scorpio playlist. It's hard to say because there's just so much to say, okay? Because it's connected to your sexual energy and you want to kind of like hone your sexual energy to manifest for yourself, essentially, is really, really what that is. You said you love the fast speaking. Thank you. So much information to disseminate. And then you said, yeah, she makes it so easy to understand. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to screenshot that. You guys are so awesome. Yeah, exactly. It's just like, I can see every time every time I screenshot this, like a green screen thing pops up. So I'm not sure why that's happening, but here we are. But yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just like I can't talk slower because that's the train of thought. If I talk slower, I lose my train of thought. So it just is what it is. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, definitely check out my Patreon. I'll be like basically putting on exclusive content on there. You said, do I remember the jumpy thing from the 90s that looked like Saturn under your feet? Oh, skipping rope. Interesting. Oh my gosh, see, I didn't even think about that. And you know what's so wild? I had a skipping rope and I was literally looking at it the other day. So interesting. Yeah, literally green. That's like heart chakra activations. I don't know. I'm just like joking around. Okay, let me go back up and see what you guys were saying up here. I'm like all the way back at the top. Let's see, you said all connected on the outside versus all connected on the inside. Then you said, what do I think of? I did that one. You said part of fortune in the 12th house. Part of fortune is activating like abundance through 12th house types of things, okay? So it could be film, it could be music, it could be dance, it could be anything in the 12th house arena, okay? It could be the metaphysical world, it could be the psychic world, creativity, art, all these things, okay? Uranus in the 7th house basically is unconventional relationships, okay? It could also be instability in relationships. It could be you meeting your lovers online, okay, with Uranus in the 7th house. Anything that is like not within the norm. Basically, okay, you guys, if you have Venus-Uranus aspects, Venus in Aquarius, you know, your 7th house occupied by Aquarius or Uranus in the 7th house. All of these energies, it's about individuality, right? So usually in previous lifetimes, you weren't able to fully express yourself. So you come through in this lifetime with a strong need to express the self first, right? So the energy might come off detached, but it's not that it's detached. It's like you just didn't get the chance in previous lifetimes to be your own person, right? So it doesn't mean you can't be in relationships. You just need to be with someone who understands that you need this level of freedom. Like this energy is totally okay with seeing people once every 2 months. Do you know what I mean? That person can be your best friend once a year, you know, or just like completely unconventional relationships, like where you guys don't even live in the same house, or long distance relationships or internet relationships. You know what I mean? So that's that energy. It's like the self comes first in terms of expressing the individuality because you weren't able to in a previous lifetime, essentially, okay? You said, what do I predict? Okay, I did that one already. Yes, I don't do predictions. You said, oh, that's like connected on the earth, horizontal. Okay, I don't remember what we were talking about back then. I'm just like all the way at the top, you guys. I'm just reading what you guys were saying earlier. Oh, good. I'm glad that that resonated way back then. Let's see. You said, is Pluto male, square Venus female, always bad in a love connection? No, it's not always bad. It just depends how evolved is the person. And with Pluto aspects, is the person in tune? Like, do they have Pluto aspects in their own chart? Are they an 8th house person? Are they a Scorpio person? And how evolved are they in their energy, okay? Because here's the thing, Gladys, because you're asking for male and female, right? So a heterosexual relationship, and it depends if he is a cishet male, right? How in tune is he with his feminine energy within, okay? Because that Pluto energy squaring the Venus, okay? Here's the thing. First of all, because this is Pluto, it's usually him behaving in ways unconsciously that are going to trigger you more, right? Because it's the generational planet and then aspecting your internal planet or placement, right? But at the same time, it can bring through possessiveness, right? It can bring through jealousy. It can bring through intense energy. Like that feminine energy, if it's suppressed within, it really goes into the shadow. It can be sneaky. It can be, you know, lurking behind the shadows. It can be hacking into your phone, or, you know, like watching what you're doing all the time, or like observing you, or like following you around. Do you know what I mean? Like it can be like very shadowy, right? If it's not integrated. Okay. So it depends. It depends. It's just like, the way that I see it is like, it can absolutely be like both genders. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It just depends how in tune is that person with their feminine energy, okay, is really, really what that is. I just find within cishet males, okay, because there's a huge focus on masculinity, they're really rejecting their feminine energy within if they haven't worked on that for themselves. So then it really goes into the shadow because the energy still has to come out. This is what's important to understand. When you have an energy within you, the energy still has to come out, okay? So it's like, I find if it's suppressed, it tends to go into the shadow, okay? So that's why the extreme version of this can be violence, okay? It can be aggression. It can be stalking, okay? It can be all these things. So it depends how evolved is the person. That's all you can do is see how evolved is the individual, okay? Can I tell you about your South Node in Capricorn? So you're basically coming from like a hard-working past life, essentially, okay? Okay, Gia, you need for your house placements, you need to figure out your time of birth, okay? Essentially. You have Venus opposite Uranus and they are both out of bounds. Okay, so it's not, like it's an out of sign conjunction, you mean? You said you may have mentioned it in another live video. You have astrology, no problem. You said what attracted me to astrology if it's not too personal. Oh, it's not personal at all. I have a whole video on that. I can talk for days, you guys. You guys can ask anything. I can literally talk for days. Astrology, okay, if you want like the in-depth version, because I'm not going to talk for 20 minutes about like how I got into it. And, you know, a nutshell, I did a few different things. I was obsessed with like being successful and like successful people, okay? And I would like study them and I would learn about them. And that's how I came to the conclusion in a nutshell, okay? I learned that they all use it and that there's like a theme here that's taking place, okay? And basically it's this. So check out that video. I think it's going to be under my entrepreneurial playlist, maybe. It's literally called How I Got Into Astrology. Check it out. But yeah, it's this in a nutshell. So I did a few different things. And also when I learned about my own natal chart, it just made so much sense because like I'm a Libra, but I'm also Pluto dominant. I have a whole bunch of Scorpio energy. And then people always said to me, they're like, oh, you're not really like a Libra, or you're not like the other Libras that I know and all these things. And like, I never thought too much about it, but like now in retrospect, I kind of get where they're coming from because it's like Libra is just my sun, right? So it's just the energy that I put out there toward the world, right? Like the dominant energy within me is Pluto, right? So when I learned about my moon, which is in Scorpio, I was like, okay, like everything makes sense. Literally. Hey, Tiffany, how's it going? Oh, you're Scorpio sun born at 12 a.m. Are you born exactly at 12 a.m.? You're welcome. You said you feel like you know quite a handful of males that are in touch with their female side. That's good. That is good. But overall, it appears not to be the case with the general. Yes, it depends, right? It depends. I just mean this specifically for cishet men, right? Like in their world, okay? Obviously, it depends also whether you're Gen Z and younger. I find Gen Z and younger is more in tune and they're more balanced with the feminine energies within. The older generations, it depends because you have to work harder, right? Because you're basically deconstructing the shadow patriarchy. It's not even a real patriarchy in my opinion, okay? Allegedly, it's a shadow patriarchy. It's shadow masculine down here. How are you, Tiffany? Yeah, check out that video. Definitely check it out. It's under my, like I mentioned, I think it's under the entrepreneurial playlist. But even if you type it in, like how I got into astrology, Barbara Talks, I'm sure it's going to come up, okay? Because it's a whole journey of how I got here. I'm not gonna go into that right now. But yes, you know, when I found out more about my chart, I was like, yes, okay, all of this makes sense. You said, what does moon and Gemini in the A house mean? So it's interesting because it's moon in Gemini, which is chatty, but then it's in the A house, which kind of makes it a little bit more hidden. And Gemini doesn't want to be hidden. So it's kind of like this whole internal dilemma and also a lot to clear when it comes to the home. You said, can I ask about your North Node in Sagittarius? And it's in your 10th house. Yes, so that's the public house. It's interesting. There's always themes in the chats, right? So like the vibe always attracts each other, like the frequency, right? So I had somebody else also ask about North Node in the 10th house. Basically, it's the public house, right? So you're meant to be working with the public, okay, in one way, shape, or form. Now, it could be a public job, absolutely, okay? It could be the public career, you know, public sector, or it could literally be working with the public, okay? Now, because it's in Sag, you're probably teaching something, okay, to the public, essentially, in a nutshell, okay? It's basically this with the North Node in Sag, okay? because you're coming from Gemini. Gemini is like a small fish in a big pond. Hold on. Gemini is a big fish in a small pond. So like South Node of Gemini could have been like well known in their town, in their community, for example, because it's the fourth house, literally could have been like within, let's say, like the community that you live in, right? You could have been, let's say, well known. Now you're going into Sag, which is like a big fish in a small pond, essentially, okay? That's kind of like the vibe. Let's see, what else do you guys think here? You said that makes so much sense. Yay, I'm glad that that resonated. Good. You said Saturn conjunct K2, so K2 is going to be your South Node. Basically, you have a lot of karma to clear with that energy in there, okay? Also, it's like there's a restriction that's connected to your previous lifetime and karma from the father. You don't know how to break down the houses. Do you know your time of birth? You said you know you're a Scorpio sun, Leo rising, Capricorn moon, North Node in Aries, born at 12 a.m. Okay, what you can do is you can go on any astrology websites, okay? Type in birth chart, put in the information there. It's going to show you the houses, and then come back here and let us know what you found. You said once upon a time, my videos were sort of ASMR cover. Oh, that's so good. You feel like that's the ultimate compliment. Thank you. Just like the energy. That is so nice to hear, because back in the day when I did Reiki, a lot of my clients would fall asleep during my Reiki session. So that's very, very nice to hear. And another thing too, I don't do Reiki anymore, you guys, but back when I did it like in person. Also, my grandma, anytime my grandma would hang out with me and I'd be like telling her a story, she'd always fall asleep. I don't like take offense to that at all. I just take it more like, I don't know, I'm like, by me speaking, it's like putting you into like sleep. So there's that too. You said how to work with Saturn and Pisces. And then you said Aries rising. Can you tell me what house is it in, Daniel? Scorpio sun and Libra moon. Because the Pisces is like the generation, right? So it's you and the subset of your generation got restricted in Pisces. But I'm curious to know what house is it going through right now. Let me know, okay? I'm just going to go back up and see what you guys were saying up here. Okay. North Node in Cancer, I'm curious though, Joseph, let me know what house is it in, okay? North Node in Cancer, and then you said South Node in Capricorn. If you can type it in one sentence, tell me North Node in Cancer is in this house, South Node is in Capricorn in this house, okay? So I can see it all at once. 12th house, okay. So Saturn return in the 12th house. So you're going to have a lot of things come to the surface for you. Maybe certain fears, for example. Maybe you travel during this period of time. Maybe you discover something abroad. You're basically getting like in tune with your spirituality, because you could have been restricted in this area, especially because it's in Pisces. Usually Saturn is the father or the dominant masculine role in your life, okay? This person restricts you in this particular area. So you could have been restricted in the area of your spirituality, okay? Maybe it was a religious household and you were spiritual, for example, okay? So during this period of time, because it's the 12th house, you could have a lot of past life things coming to the surface. I'm even seeing actually, because like the 12th house can also be past life enemies coming through as that person. So Saturn in the 12th can be past life enemies coming through as the father, okay? Or it can also be authoritative figures. So what I'm kind of seeing here is like, you know, authoritative figures being like teachers, managers, all these people could be kind of pulling you. When I say enemies, it doesn't mean like that they mean bad for you. It's just like the way that I see it is like these people are kind of pulling you out of where it is that you're trying to go in this lifetime, okay? I hope that makes sense. So if you grew up in like a restricting area or situation, it perpetuates throughout your life where people are kind of restricting you in the area of spirituality. Maybe your psychic gifts, maybe your intuition is coming online during this period of time. It's a lot of clearance, okay? You guys can look at Saturn return as clearance energy to embark on your basically life path, right? And whatever you guys usually start around your Saturn return, okay, if you're working hard toward it and you're putting in the effort, you get rewarded during your second Saturn return, okay? So it's this. Yes, my grandma with the coffee, absolutely. You said in retrospect, jobs are connected to Cancer, are the strong side of your job life. You said, let me see, what else are you guys saying here? Oh, good, I'm glad that that resonated. You said the nature of enemies, not like the actual person being the only. Yeah, the enemy energy kind of pulls you out of where it is that you're trying to go. You said you wouldn't fall asleep. It's too interesting, relaxing, comforting, but not sleep. That's nice to hear. That's so awesome. Yay. Very nice to hear. You said Uranus in the 12th house. What can I tell you about this? Basically like an inventor, okay? So Uranus and Scorpio is a subset of your generation, okay? So you share that with like a lot of people. So it's like you guys are kind of rebelling in the area of Scorpio, right? Which could be your sexuality, which could be, let's say, you know, finances, how you make money. You guys bring through new ideas, okay? You and the subset of your generation with Uranus and Scorpio. It could be like maybe you guys create apps, for example, with like money and finances and investments and all these things, okay? So that's you and the subset of your generation for the sign, okay? The house affects you more. So Uranus in the 12th, I find to be an inventor, okay? Because you're kind of picking up ideas, okay, out of the astral, okay? That's the 12th house. It's like if you're able to switch your mind into the meditative state, you're going to be pulling things out of the astral plane, essentially, okay? is really, really what that is. Lilith and Chiron in the 12th house. Can you tell me, are they conjunct? Also, Saturn in the 12th is a sign of a writer, you guys. That's another thing to keep in mind as well. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Mercury in Aries, you're able to life today. That's good. Yeah, I mean, we're coming out of that Mars retrograde energy, which is nice, but also we're going into like 2 retrogrades, which is like kind of annoying at the same time. There's just like always something happening. That's why like I try not to like pay attention to it. But yeah, the retrogrades are going to be interesting for sure. And by the end of all that, we're going to start switching into the Saturn, right? So the Saturn sign. So it's a lot of changes await. So I'm excited. I'm excited for all the change, basically. I'm just back up at the top here to see what you guys may have been saying. Also interesting, as I was saying that, one of you guys said Saturn Neptune will be exciting, more physical than dreamy times. You said maybe people go more outside, but Neptune be like what even is outside in reality. We are reshaping those terms. Makes sense also, right? Because we're going more into like AI, right? So it's going to be like really blurring like fantasy and like reality, I guess, if you think about it in that way. But also Saturn can kind of ground the Neptune energy. So it depends again, right? Because Saturn and Neptune together could be a good business person, right? Because like whatever you're dreaming of, you're able to ground, right? If you act on it, that is. That's kind of how manifestation works. Most people just talk about the visualization aspect of things, and it's not just that. Okay, let's see. I'm just seeing what else are you guys saying in here. I'm just back at the top. You said Cancer, social worker. You said they are quite literally often have to do with their clients living. You said Cancer Sun. Oh, I did that one already. I'm just scrolling through to see what I may have missed. Okay, part of fortune and Gemini in the 3rd house, indigenous being if you're still in the room. Okay, basically like part of fortune are ways that you can activate abundance, okay? So when you have it in Gemini and you have it in the 3rd house, it's through the written or the spoken word. It's speaking, it's communicating, and you have it in the 3rd house, right? It could be social media, okay? You could basically activate abundance through any of these things. Oh, another one of you guys asked about the part of fortune in Gemini, and then you have it in the 12th house. So the 12th house, basically, yeah, you said you're not a social butterfly. I'm curious, do you have Gemini occupying your 12th house overall? Because that's the thing. If you have Gemini in the 12th, basically it's like it mutes the energy, okay? It makes it more subdued. It gives it more of a Piscean undertone, okay? Because the 12th house is about isolation. So it's like having Gemini and it's in the 12th, it's like you attract a lot of people, but then it's like they're draining you at the same time. So you're gonna have to focus on closing the aura, because also you said you're pretty much, or you're pretty 8th house heavy. It's like, it's interesting because it's like you're actually meant to transmute the energy for these people, right? So you're gonna have to balance like interacting with people, taking time in isolation, because the 12th house always wants to be in isolation, okay? That's like the best case scenario for them, but they're not meant to be. They're meant to be interacting with people, right? Kind of having this balanced energy because you're healing essentially, right? The people, just like by being around them. You don't have to actually do anything, but that's kind of how the energy works, okay? What else are you guys saying in here? Yeah, the AI is definitely intense. It's definitely intense. You said, can I tell if there are any sign placements that point to dexterity skills? Is that when you're like able to write with both hands, like ambidextrous? Let me know what that word means. I'm not sure what it means. Let's see what else you guys thinking here. You said Cancer Sun in the 8th house, Scorpio. You said, yes, you're drained a lot by people, and you're a Cancer rising. Yes, you're literally attracting people that like need nurturing, which is like so intense. Cancer rising, as I mentioned earlier in this live as well, I've seen them a lot in like social worker or like PSWs or, you know, nurses. I've seen them, sometimes managers. I've seen some managers with Cancer rising as well. Depends on the rest of the energies, but usually like you're working in some sort of area where it's like, you know, you're helping the people, but at the same time it could be draining, right? So like self-care is going to be really important basically. Cancer, Sun, 8th house, Scorpio, rising and moon in Aries, 4th house. Hold on a second. Cancer, Sun, 8th house, Scorpio, rising and moon in Aries, and it's in the 4th house. What can I tell you about this? And you also have Venus and Cancer in the 8th house. A lot of clear connected to the home, basically, with all of that, okay? And then also generational because of the 8th house. Father, like with the Sun in Scorpio, or sorry, the Sun in Cancer, and it's in the 8th house, the father could have, you know, struggled with substances, or there's something hidden about the father, okay? Cancer usually can be like alcohol, for example, but it doesn't just always have to be this. It's not limited to that. It's just like, you know, there could be some sort of addiction here with the 8th house. Addiction is on a range, of course. Usually with the 8th house placements, I find that you find out, especially if you have it in the sun or the moon, there's usually something hidden about the parent or parents, sun being the father, moon being the mother, that you find out later on, and it kind of confirms your intuition. So that's kind of how your intuition comes online, okay? As an 8th house person or a Scorpio person, it's like, again, I'm not a psychologist, that's always my disclaimer, but usually like within the upbringing, okay, and within the home, right, there is a theme here where it's like what was happening within the reality was not matching what you were feeling, okay, and tapping into. And sometimes parents do that out of protection for the children, right? So that's there. But, okay, at the same time, it's like usually I find with that 8th house energy, you kind of find out later on, okay? It's something hidden about the home, about the parents, about the family line that you're kind of transmuting if you so choose to, okay? And then you even have Aries in the 4th house. Basically, Moon in Aries is here to kind of like pick their own path or just like do something different than the family line. So there could be a theme of that for you as well. Hey, Sarah, how are you doing? What does the transit Saturn, okay, hold on. What does transit Saturn natal north node mean? Okay, so when you guys have Saturn, even if you have a Saturn north node aspect taking place, okay, part of your life purpose, okay, deals with anything to do with like masculine energy or hard work or effort, okay? It's kind of like Saturn puts you on the path of responsibility, right? So it's like the transit of Saturn transiting your north node. It's kind of like you're activating this responsibility energy, or you're going more into discipline, or you're going more into hustle, okay? You're basically activating more of that masculine energy within, okay? With Saturn transiting the north node, and it's kind of activating you into your life purpose. Maybe you always wanted to start a business, and now maybe is the time, right? Because you're gonna be focused, okay? Saturn also restricts, but it's not always restriction in a bad sense. Sometimes it puts you in like a focus zone, right? To focus on that particular thing. So that could be one of the manifestations, and that could also be for people who have Saturn, let's say, aspecting their north node in their natal chart as well, okay? You said, yes, your dad crossed out when you were 3 months old and he was 19. You were told he was drinking. There it is. And you were hidden from his family. There you go. Confirmation. Thank you for confirming that. And thank you for sharing. And so sorry to hear about that as well. So that could be something that you're transmuting, okay? Maybe there could be something here taking place. And then you said, like, internally, right? Where it's like it could be affecting you without realizing, okay? Let's see. You said, hi, doll. Hey, Sun Dancer. How are you doing? You said you're wondering if this conjunct. Let me know. You said, what if you have Saturn and the South Node in the 11th house? So there's a restriction here from the father, okay, that could be happening in this lifetime, connected to your ideas, okay? It could be connected to, you said now it's 3 times repeated. Okay, if you guys are in the room, is it working? Let me know, or is it frozen? I'm just gonna wait a second. Oh my goodness. Literally, this is so Mercury retrograde. Okay, it's good now? Okay. Good, okay, we are good. You guys didn't miss out on much. I was just kind of like waiting to see. Okay, good. Thank you guys. Okay. Okay, back to what I was saying for one of you guys that was basically asking about Saturn and the South Node in the 11th house. So that's the restriction of the father coming through from a previous lifetime, where the father restricted you in the area of basically ideas, okay? And innovations and all these things. So you're basically meant to break free from that, okay? To activate your north node. Hey, Spiritual Awakening Scorpio, how are you doing? How are you guys doing? What's new? Thoughts on Saturn in the 8th. You watched my video on it so many times and you keep learning. Oh yeah, I'm so glad that resonated. Saturn in the 8th is like a restriction on your sexuality and also your vulnerability. And then when your sexuality is restricted, or again, anything to do with the sacral chakra, or like not expressing your emotions and all these things, well, in that particular case, right, you struggle with manifestation, for example, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. So that's Saturn in the 8th house, basically. I'd have to rewatch that video. I'm not sure like what I said back then, but in a nutshell, it's this, okay? Okay, if you guys want your own reading, so natal chart reading, synastry reading, if you guys want your own progressed natal chart reading or mini natal chart reading, or if you guys want business guidance, okay, if you want to start your own business, or if you guys are in a business and you want guidance, okay, send me an email. That's all on my website. It's going to be in the description box below. Check out my Patreon. I'm going to be posting exclusive content on there. And there's a chat. I'm so excited for the chat. So you guys can meet each other. And I'll be in and out of the chat. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be there like 24/7, but I'll be in and out of that chat too. You said with the first house, Sun, Moon, Mercury in Aquarius, and Venus in Capricorn. And then you said 1 with Capricorn ascendant. What sign / house and ascendant would you work well with? He said first house, Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Aquarius. I'd have to look at your whole chart to see what's going on in there. What sign / house and the ascendant would you work well with? Yeah, I have to look at the whole chart. I'm curious also to know what's going on with the 7th house too. You have Cancer in there. Because sometimes people say like the opposing like ascendant works well together because it falls into your 7th house, you know? So for example, if you have Cancer ascendant, your 7th house would be, if you have Capricorn ascendant, your 7th house would be Cancer. So you would get along well with like a Cancer ascendant, right? Because it would like balance the energy. But it's basically, you have to look at everything. It's hard to say, like as a general. I'm just reading what you guys are saying. I know, I'm excited for the Patreon as well. I have content that I filmed I'm going to be posting on there soon. It's going to be exclusive content. Okay, you guys, if you guys want your own natal chart reading, synastry reading, progress natal chart reading, mini reading, if you want business guidance, okay, send me an email and we'll go from there, okay? I'll let you guys know the information, the turnaround time and all of that. I'm going to sign off now. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your likes, your shares, your subscribes. Thank you for being a part of the channel. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day or evening, wherever you are. Bye.